Shalom. This week's Sedra is Sedra Vayeitzie, and let's examine an idea about how Kadosh Baruch Hu relates to the Jewish people. Jewish history has taken many twists and turns in these past 4,000 years. While there have been many moments to celebrate, there have also been many tragic moments. The Jewish people have a tradition that they are the chosen people, blessed with divine protection. For a nation that is chosen for divine protection, the Jewish people have suffered a great deal. How can we understand God's promise to protect the Jewish people in light of the many great tragedies that have marked Jewish history? Jewish history begins with God's assurances to the patriarchs and matriarchs. In this week's Torah reading, Yaakov goes to sleep and is inspired with a prophetic dream. God promised Yaakov protection during his lifetime and protection to his descendants. God promises Yaakov, and I apologize, I'm going to turn and read for a minute. He promises Yaakov, "Your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall gain strength westward, eastward, northward, and southward. And through you and through your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. I am with you, and I will guard you wherever you go, and I will restore you to this land, for I will not forsake you until I have done what I have spoken concerning you." What's interesting about this promise is that God makes 7 promises, while had he just promised the people one promise of protection. If he just would have said it once to Yaakov, that would have been sufficient. Let's count the 7. 1 is that he's going to have plenty of descendants. 2, that his descendants would spread throughout the world. 3, that all people will be blessed through Yaakov's children. 4, God is going to be with Yaakov. 5, he will guard Yaakov and his children wherever they go. 6, that God will bring them back safely to the land. And lastly, 7, God will not forsake Yaakov or his descendants. The 13th century biblical scholar, the Sforno, Ravaggio Sforno, he foreshadowed tragedy in his commentary to these promises. God promised protection and a return to the land. In order for that to come true, both of these promises require threats to the Jewish people and an inevitable exile from their land. The Sforno draws the conclusion that before the promises can come true, God will deliver the Jewish people to their enemies in a great catastrophe, and only then will God protect us and bring us back to the land. 2 generations after the Holocaust and the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel through the creation of the state of Israel, the Sforno's words stun us and entice us to wonder if he knew what was going to befall the Jews 6 centuries later and the great achievement that would immediately follow. It is impossible to know if our scholars perceive the future. By studying God's promises, we can suggest why tragedy was necessary to the Jewish people's eventual success. In his commentary to God's promise, Rashi explained that God promises Yaakov's descendants will gain strength westward, eastward, northward, and southward, meaning that they will gain strength from being spread out. A lesson in the Talmud instructed that God gave the Jewish people a gift, the land of Israel, but it only comes with pain. Nothing valuable in life comes easily. It is only with sweat, blood, and tears that we can earn that which we aspire to achieve. Living in peace in their own land wouldn't be treasured by the Jewish people without having to sacrifice to earn it and without fighting to gain it. The struggle for peace in one's lands requires a great fight and true strength to succeed. Only exile, tragedy, and suffering would properly prepare the Jewish people for the battles that would be necessary in their land. The Jewish people's history is peppered with tragedy and loss. We mark each exile, crusade, pogrom, and Holocaust. We commemorate them with fasts and with prayers. They remind us of the Jewish people's sacrifice, but also give us perspective to the Jewish people's successes. The current return of the Jewish people to its land is understood within the context of the tragedies that they've overcome to achieve this great divine protection. I hope that makes sense, but it's important to recognize the fact that yes, we've suffered a great deal, but that suffering has allowed us to appreciate the great success that we currently enjoy. Shabbat Shalom.